We see these barricades going up. What do these new safety measures that we see at the courthouse tell you, or at least signal to you, about her timing?
Oh, I think it's clear an indictment is coming. There'd be no reason to go to the time and expense of putting up barricades if she didn't think it was coming. I think the words that you just started with, that it's coming before September, is an effort to not give Trump supporters a precise date, because, you don't want to have a January 6th will be wild invitation when everybody knows it's coming. So I think she's being deliberately vague about when it might happen. And of course, grand jury matters are secret anyway. But it seems like she's ready to go. To me, the biggest surprise is that it has taken her this long after we had that special grand jury conclude its work at the end of last year, and her statements in January that an indictment was imminent. But one thing I've learned as a prosecutor is never to promise when you're ready to indict a case, because there's always one more thing. And it's important to chase down that one more thing. And so perhaps it's what she's doing, but it sounds like she's nearing the end. I think these barricades indicate that she has given a heads up to security that it's coming soon. She just doesn't want to publicly announce a specific date lest she invite some civil unrest.
Yeah, Lisa, that one more thing is also something we're seeing here with respect to D.C. police, as they've met with Secret Service to prepare for a potential Trump indictment. Walk us through what happens if the grand jury decides to do that when it convenes on Tuesday.
If the grand jury votes a true bill on Tuesday, what would happen is that the prosecutors would then bring that indictment likely to what's called the duty magistrate. It's a magistrate judge who's on duty for the week. That has to happen in an open courtroom, meaning the doors have to be open. And usually the names of the defendants are not called, their initials are read. And then that indictment would either be sealed pending arraignment, or if the special counsel's office decides there's no reason to have it sealed, they would bring it straight to the clerk's office for filing and then for unveiling. So we'll have to see how they proceed. You are right to say that this could happen as soon as Tuesday. We also know that there are a number of witnesses who expect to communicate with the special counsel's office in the coming weeks, whether that's in service of an additional indictment or whether that's part and parcel of Jack Smith's team closing certain loops with respect to an indictment of former President Trump and those in his innermost circle. We'll have to see, Michael.
Yeah, it begs some really interesting questions as to how this timing now may play out a little bit later on for potential other indictment, another indictment that we don't even know about. So, Barb, that brings us back to both Walt Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira, who've allegedly lied to the FBI instead of cooperating with them. Could criminal charges help prosecutors convince them to flip at this point?
Yes, I have seen situations where people who had criminal exposure but were lower members of a criminal organization were approached, offered an opportunity to cooperate, and they declined. But there is something about being charged in an indictment that tends to focus the mind. And so at that point, I think a lawyer has to have a very candid conversation with his client about what he's facing, what kind of evidence appears to be against him, and the likelihood of conviction as well as the penalties. Sometimes that causes a person to change their mind. Now, it may be that these folks are loyal to the end, but as the case proceeds and gets ready for trial, sometimes it's that trial date, the eve of trial. They've even had defendants say, whoa, okay, I see that this is really happening and I'm ready to cooperate. They can even agree to testify after they've been sentenced. Although I would imagine in this case, to have any value, they need to cooperate before this case goes to trial against Donald Trump.